All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our tri-annual millennial Devstream. And with me today is Max and Mark, and my name is Matt. Hi, and welcome. We're going to talk about what is coming up next with Foxhole, and we got kind of a. It's just a low key. I'm not going to bury the lead. Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll take the lead on that one. Yeah, it's we have update 61 to show you guys, and it will hopefully be an interesting one because our plans were tweaked slightly from what we had in mind at the beginning of the year. Some of it based on um, feedback that we heard from you guys a few updates ago. I'll get into that, but I think we should just get started on the stream, Matt. So,
All
without
right.
further ado, I do want to talk about an update on merch. So we did, like I mentioned last time, we did a bit of an experiment with merch. There is a team member and people on the team that were excited about trying to do more merch. It wasn't really our thing, but we wanted to try some new things. We did the patches earlier in the year, and they ended up being a lot more successful than we had even dreamed of. Like, it seems like you guys were very interested in this sort of thing. So we took that experiment further, and we said, hey, we want to do some more patches. So we have coming soon. TM, the Colonial Infantry patch and the Warden Infantry patch. So those are two new things to look out for. Um, and there's also we're extending the merch to some new things here, which is the nation flags for both the factions, the Warden and the Colonial ones. And we did, once again with this merch, it's something that we really just want to focus on the quality of it, and um, we do try to get the best quality versions of this stuff. We don't just look for the cheapest mass produced manufacturer. We do actually try to do tests on certain um, variations of this from different manufacturers, and we choose the one that we think is the best. So these will be in limited quantities again, and we'll have more news on them soon. The other thing I want to mention is that the old patches will also be restocked when we get this new merch into the store. So we'll post information on this and look out for it. Again, if you guys like this sort of stuff, we'll do more of it. Again, it's not our main thing. Our main thing is focused on working on Foxhole, working on the games. But this is just a really cool thing that some people at the studio are very passionate about, and know that some of you guys are really passionate about it, and that's why we're doing it. So from there, let's move on to the roadmap. So just to touch a little bit on this and just explain where things are going. So we did the infantry update last year, and we had gotten a lot of feedback on the builder changes. We tried to make some changes to the bunkers, um, and a lot of those were smaller changes, tweaks. We were trying to almost do too much of a band-aid solution to the problem. And as a lot of you guys, especially the builders in the community, you pointed out to us um, the flaws to our solution, and you gave us a lot of feedback on it, and we really took that to heart, and we realized that it wasn't going to be enough to just do a couple of small changes here, and as you guys pointed out, we needed to do a larger change. So um, we we made some changes to our development schedule and our roadmap to take the time to address a lot of the issues that you guys were pointing out in a more proper way. So we devoted update 61 to be focused on builder changes and features. Now this isn't a big builder update like an annual update, but there are quite a few features and content that are focused on the building side to again address those issues that we saw that we were trying to address in the infantry update, but where but to address the shortcomings of those changes.
And
Um, yeah.
we are still focused on the airborne update, but I think it was pointed out to us that we should that we wouldn't feel right about going into airborne without at least fixing some of those core problems that we tried to fix 2 patches ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, we are working on airborne in the background. There's active content and features being worked on still, but we did carve out more time to focus on the builder sides for a while, and that will impact the airborne schedule a bit. And we're still having to figure out what that impact is, and we'll have more updates on that in the future. So stay tuned on that. But to get back to this update, we can start jumping into some of the changes, and we'll start off with general changes that aren't necessarily builder related, and then we'll get to the builder stuff. So over to you, Max.
All right. So again, these are some of the minor things, but please, a lot of this stuff relates to the stuff that's coming later. So the first thing here on the list is the extra range for the rocket artillery. So this is the rockets are going to get a much further range than they've had previously. Our role for them that we expect is as a kind of like anti-battery solution. So if you're getting attacked by artillery, then rockets might be the solution to this. Their range is much farther, but their accuracy is also decreased at that range. So we'll be interested to hear about the balance for this. Buildings on fire are suppressed. This is an important, something that should have come a lot earlier. When a building is like reached a certain threshold of fire, it will just be suppressed, but you can also suppress it by firing flamethrowers at it, just like if you were shooting a machine gun at it. So, which makes sense. If you're getting hit by a flamethrower, it should be suppressed. CVs and cranes are now built at garages and facilities. So what we did here was now if you wanted to build like your advanced construction vehicle, you can build it right there in the facility. You can also build them at the mass production factory. They get a bonus for this, so they can go into crates of 5, and they can be shipped via flatbed that way. And they can be built at the garages. The reason that we did this was because one of the main focuses of this update is trying to make building more accessible to newer players. And something that's always been somewhat hard to understand is like, where do you build the first vehicle for building things? And the fact that it was at a town hall is confusing. So we put it in the practical locations where they should be. This one's pretty self-explanatory. We updated the buttons so you can save your loadout at the hospitals now. Pipe structures category, the facility owners will know what this is about. This is the maintenance tunnel can now supply specifically pipes. So some people have been building pipe networks across the map, and now you can supply them specifically. And we made some changes to silicon shelf. We wanted to fix the flow of the map just a little bit. Not a lot has changed here, but we added a town to the west side of the map.
It's called the Pale
All right.
House.
20 millimeter unification. Yes. Okay. So I'll go back, and if I already said this, I'll just say it again. But the AT pillboxes now have their gameplay functionality unified with the infantry weapon and vehicle versions. So they strip tank armor and they suppress tanks. Another bonus thing functionality is that they will fire at enemy infantry now as well. So one of the other changes that we made, and this allows us to make the other change, is the tier 3 garrison houses now fire and town bases and relic bases. They now fire 30 millimeter at vehicles, and this was one of the changes we had to make in order to do the unification, because the concern was that if we had made the unification changes, that towns and town bases would be too nerfed against tanks. So this was the one change to resolve that edge case and allow us to make this overall change. early war bunker bonus. So this is a. Let me just get slides here. So this was a new change. This is a new change that we're making to address some of the pacing issues that we've seen at the beginning of a war. So right now, at the beginning of a war, players are really motivated to go on the offensive, but there isn't an equal motivator to build up. And it was almost we saw a disproportionate incentive to do one and not the other. So we wanted to balance that out a bit by providing a bonus to the
Matt
builders.
disconnected again.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Oh no! Oh, you didn't. Sorry.
No.
He was just very still, Matt.
Yeah. No, we're good. Yeah, don't worry. But I will say though, people are saying that we did miss a couple slides or something. Like something feels off to them. Like there was a jump. So maybe after this one, just go back a couple, see if.
I think we should have it covered.
Oh, okay.
There was the general features, and then there was the 20 millimeter unification. The other changes they're fairly minor. If they were missed, they'll have them in the release notes. So
Yeah. Okay.
it's probably best that we keep this rolling.
Cool. Let's
Great.
keep going.
So we want to balance out the pacing of the beginning war to also have a rush to build and not just a rush to attack. So there's going to be a bonus now to building bunkers specifically. Essentially, the activity at bunkers, which dictates how fast the upgrades at a bunker are progressed, will be higher. So the maximum amount of activity that a bunker can have will be higher for some period of time, and that's the bonus. And this bonus is finite. It will be depleted, and eventually, and it's equal on both sides. So it's agnostic to um, player population or other factors. Both sides should have an equal advantage here. And what we're hoping to see is, again, at the beginning of a war, besides the rush to attack, there's also a rush to build up a defensive line. And one note there is that activity is still required to progress, so this just increases the maximum amount of activity there. So, short wars. So this is a new thing. This is another. This change here is to second here. So this is to address an edge case that we've seen more and more as wars have gotten longer and longer in Foxhole. There's always been this edge. We're hitting the edge case more and more where the war, a war is started and then it juts into when we roll out an update. And the way we've solved that thus far is to intervene by reducing the amount of victory points that are needed to win, and that's how we able to get a war to end before a schedule update is going to be rolled out. But we found that this is not ideal. It's really disruptive, and we don't like to intervene as much as possible. So we created an alternate win condition specifically for these wars. So most wars are still gonna use the normal format, but the special wars that precede the updates will use this new format where the wars will end at a predetermined amount of time, and the win condition is tweaked such that the faction that has that claimed the required number of towns, or specifically victory towns, when the end time occurs is the side that wins. And if neither side has claimed enough towns at that point, then the war will be declared a draw. So once again, this is not going to impact most wars. This is just to address the wars before an update and to have a win condition that feels more natural, one that players are in control of instead of the devs. And hopefully it'll keep those wars as impactful as the other ones, while still allowing us to have them end at a specific time.
And just for some clarity, because I feel like there's a little bit of confusion in the chat, this is just for updates preceding wars preceding an update, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So this isn't like a normal thing. This is specifically when we need to roll out an update.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Let's move on to the next big thing. So the next big thing is hit registration improvements. So after the last update, we got a lot of feedback on some of the optimizations we made to player movement. So update 60, we changed, we made some changes to improve player movement to make it feel smoother. And this was one step towards mitigating some of the effects of network latency. And now with update 61, we want to focus on improving the shooting side of things to tackle the latency issue on the shooting side and not just the movement side. So we've spent some time implementing some improvements to our hit detection system. And one of the big things we've added in here is network lag reconciliation. And what this essentially does is it changes our hit detection system such that it doesn't just consider a potential hit in the current simulation time, but it now will consider the time frame at which the shot was actually done on the client. So the server is essentially able to keep track of multiple simulation frames and know where different actors in the scene are, where players are in the scene at different times. And when a shot is done, instead of just a basic check where it says, hey, did this hit this player at this spot on the server, it will actually consider the time and say, hey, did we hit this player at this particular simulation time at this place, right? And what this essentially does is, or the impact is that it will hopefully reduce the need to lead shots when there is network latency, and overall, it should improve the feeling such that it will, where the player is targeting or more on the client will more match where the player actually is. It will create more of that feeling. So a lot of this is to address some of the feedback that we got after the player movement changes in the last update. There's a lot of technical things going on behind the scenes here, and this is an explanation of how hopefully it'll impact your player experience. And one thing I did want to mention is that this tech is very similar to what's used in a lot of other industry standard first-person shooter games that are trying to get the most optimal experience over the network. So games like Overwatch and Counter-Strike, they all use this kind of system. And Foxhole previously didn't use a system because of the camera angle and sort of the pace of the game. It didn't require as much of a tight simulation as first person shooter. But now we've gone to the point with these other changes. We just wanted to take that extra step and try to add this optimization to Foxhole. And then another improvement here that's unrelated to hit registration, but something we just wanted to mention, is that there was an edge case in the current movement system from update 60 where sometimes there's a sudden warping effect on players if there's extreme latency. And just want to mention here that we've addressed that issue in update 61. And then the final thing to mention is that this lag reconciliation system will be experimental in the dev branch. So a lot of this stuff it's difficult to test at scale until you actually test it at scale, right? So we're going to be looking for your feedback on it. So please test out all forms of combat, shooting, and movement, and let us know how it feels. So yeah, that's it on hit registration, and I think that's back to you, Max.
All right. Pipe fluid mechanics. So we've finally gotten around to fixing this one very niche problem that those of you who are dedicated to pipe networks would know all too well. It's one guy who's been posting on our feedback channel every update since we put out pipes. So hopefully this will finally resolve that. So what we've changed here is pipes are going to work in different systems. So we're rather than have each pipe function as a discrete part that has to transfer liquid from one pipe to the next, all of the connected pipes and fuel silos are all connected into one big block. That increases with capacity as you add more sections to it. And then it will transfer it to the next section, which can be separated by something like a pipe valve or with an input-output from like one of the facilities. And what this ultimately translates into is that you can more easily tell what's going on inside of your pipe network without needing to go through a dozen wiki pages. And I think that's really the bottom line here. For most of us who have never engaged with the pipe system, the bottom line is we're trying to make this more accessible to the average player without needing to go through massive amounts of reading. So this will, I think, be a lot more intuitive and make a lot more sense to people who want to engage with pipes. The bottom line is, and the big quality of life here, is that pipes now transfer liquid almost instantly across much further distances. You don't have to wait for it to slowly build up and empty out and so on and so forth. So if you're going to build a long pipe network, you can now use maintenance tunnels to supply it so that it can run and be with the new build category. You can maintain it and you can transfer it more easily to other facilities in the region.
Okay, I think we're time for our first video here. So.
All right. It's funny. I think we buried the lead a little bit. We were like, "Oh yeah, this is the builder update," and then we talked about a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
So now we're into the builder update. Let's talk about the builder features.
Jump into the real Devstream. That was the fake Devstream before. So
tripod mounts in bunkers. Sorry, am I talking about this one or you talking about this one?
Yes. The reins are in your hands.
Okay, so tripod mounts in bunkers. Finally, you can put tripod mounts in bunkers. You can plug it directly into the. You can build the normal window modification that you're normally used to building. Now it comes with a tripod stand that you can just put in the tripod weapons for, and then they just fire as normal. I think the ammo is stored inside the inventory of the bunker, and pretty much what you see is what you get here. I don't think there's much more we need to say about this.
Okay. Move on.
You guys saw this one you saw a couple of these in the video, the trench hardpoint. So what we tried to do here was give you guys something that you were already doing. So we saw that you guys were using the stairs and using a bunch of weird magical bugs to get this thing to get the stairs inside a trench, which would create a one-way a one-way trench, I guess, gateway. But we decided we're not going to try to discourage that. Instead, we're just going to give you make it practical, make it real, and something you can actually put down. So we called this the strong point. Something that's really kind of hard to see here is the trench intersection. You'll see them sort of on the left and at the top. Now it's like a square that you can connect to 4 points. It's sort of will actually give you a lot more flexibility in what you can build for trenches than you might think.
It's funny how long it took us for us to just put in a cross piece.
Well, and for good reason. It actually took way more work than you'd think.
It's a hard technical problem.
I just want to say, in prototyping, there was a cross piece.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the berm. So this is notice the sandbag. We replaced the sandbag wall with a sandbag berm. And I'm going to keep driving this point home. Again, the point we changed here is that it's just the change to the visual aesthetic. There's no collision change. But what we really wanted to fix here was that new players would come in and build a sandbag on the trench thinking, I want more cover. I'm going to build a sandbag here. But actually, it just blocked your line of sight, which is what they were always designed to do, so that you can add modifications to a bunker and prevent players from shooting backwards. So the berm, we think, more clearly communicates what the sandbag modification does, so hopefully will lead to fewer mistakes.
All right, let's move on.
All right, large structures. So when we first released the storm cannon and some of these other large structures, we wanted them to be way more powerful than they were. The problem with that was we had no way to really limit how many you could build. When storm cannons were really strong, people just spammed them everywhere. But as you all know, we now have a mechanic in the game called rare materials, which allows us to make these things really powerful again. Yes, they come with a rare metal cost, but they are much more powerful. The way this sort of works is you'll build a foundation, like a large structure foundation into the center of a 3x3 bunker, just like you do, and then you'll bring these shippables to it. The shippables are produced at facilities. It's very similar to how you'd build like a large ship. It still takes time to settle and all that other stuff.
Yeah, one small this is just like a cool user experience thing that's not gonna, impact a whole lot of players, but I think it's also really a lot more cool and immersive that when you're building a structure as significant like this, you're using the crane, and you're not just sort of sitting there like submitting small items to it. It just the feeling of the crane building is good. So
yeah, I love that it like comes up in pieces. Like you can see the cannons missing. Like that's not a fudge screenshot. That's how it actually looks when you build these things.
Yeah. And here's just some renders of the new shippable parts.
Don't worry, the weather station doesn't cost rare metal, guys. Don't worry.
You mean you made it harder to make? Okay.
All right, so we've rebalanced the storm cannon, the intel center, and the rocket site. They all cost rare metal now, but varying amounts. The weather station does not. Since I mentioned the weather station first, I'll just say this one actually, we don't even require advanced bunker tech anymore for this. You can build this much earlier on. Our expectation with this is sort of like where the entry level players who just are starting up and don't want to build something massive and require a whole team of people. If they want to build a large structure, the weather station is in their reach. This one is the first thing you get and sort of introduces them to the mechanic. The rocket range is increased to 2.5 kilometers, so you can nuke from further away. Sorry, not nuke. It's not a nuke. It's a rocket. The intelligence center also had to have its range increased since it does have a rare metal cost. It's much lower than the storm cannon, but it does have one now. But we needed to increase the range as well so that it matches the rocket. And yeah, I think that's it.
Okay.
Oh, we reduced the time to gain advanced bunker tech by a sizable chunk. All right, so the storm cannon specifically. So this one was always meant to be a super weapon that has more utility to it. So it deals large leaks to ships. So this is the same damage that a torpedo does. So you can use the storm cannon to counter those naval landings. The 300 millimeter unlocks with tier 2 facilities, but the cannon itself unlocks at a specific tier. The goal here is to unlock the storm cannon at the same time that rare metal starts to drop. And the reason we did this was to mitigate the storm cannon race. So what we're hoping will happen here, and you guys, it's open to feedback, is that when you, let's say you're the team that researches the storm cannon first, you just manage to get to the tech first, you'll still need to get your rare materials together to build the first storm cannon. Then the other team will presumably research storm cannons shortly after. They will pool their rare metal, which means that they'll get to place the second one. So in a way, we're hoping that this will allow the teams to basically take turns putting down storm cannons. So it's not like an all or nothing race where if you get the tech first, suddenly you win every storm cannon race across the board. Both teams will have to work together to sort of put them down one by one. All right. So one of the big problems that builders would bring to us was that they would oftentimes try to build a bunker, but they couldn't block it out. So they would put like signs up that say, "Don't upgrade this piece. This is going to be an AT garrison." But you still needed the bunker tech to get it. So we added these tier 1 variants to it so that you can build tier 1 howitzer garrisons or artillery garrisons, tier 1 tank garrisons, but and that will sort of like reserve the spot for further on. They're still useful, but they might not be as powerful as they might not be as like powerful as their tier 3 equivalents.
Well, I would hope not.
Yeah.
Okay. And here's just a screenshot of all the new bunker types here. And we'll move on to fire suppression system.
All right, so this ties into that artillery change or the rocket artillery change that I was talking about at the start. So one of the concerns is that the range on those rocket artillery is far enough that it can outrange howitzer garrisons. So how do you counter rocket artillery? This is how you would do it with the fire suppression system. Now it's an automated method of like putting out fires. It's like it douses the fires on its own. You can pipe it in with a pipe, so you don't even have to return to it. And it's like a sort of like a set and forget kind of thing. And you can install multiple. So you can mitigate. So this would be how you'd mitigate the damage coming from fire rockets if they were using this to extreme effect.
All right, on to a cool one. I think so. At least I think so.
Yeah. So this one people have been asking for a long time. Some way to prevent the damage from artillery. So the way this works is you can build an artillery shelter inside your bunkers now, which will increase its resistances to artillery, but it will lower the structural integrity. So the trade-off here is, it will only increase the resistances of all the tiles that it is immediately adjacent to, including the diagonals. So you'll want to build these cleverly, not necessarily spam them everywhere. And yeah, it impacts the structural integrity, which we'll talk more about later.
And finally, well, I guess it's not finally. There's a few more things to go, but
Yeah, we should take a break. Give them
this
a
one
chance
is
to digest.
this one's cool though. I've been like we've talked about doing some form of this next one, Max, for a long time. So finally, I can't believe we finally have this in the game.
Oh
It's
my gosh,
so cool.
yeah. Yeah, so construction equipment. Again, one of the principal complaints with builders is that it is tedious holding down left click to build everything. And more to the point, there's been some edge cases that we haven't been able to reconcile, like when you have to put in 200 large materials into a structure to build a facility, for example. It's a little bit unfair to expect somebody to have to sit there going back and forth over and over delivering items to it. And sometimes you just want to build a cool base and you don't necessarily want 30 people to do it. So this construction equipment gives you a chance to um, remove the gameplay, the boring gameplay loop of just holding down left click. I shouldn't even say that it reduces the number of players you need. In fact, the goal here is to not make building faster, or sorry, it is to make it faster, but it's not to make it require fewer players. It's to change what you're doing to something else. So you're not just holding down left click. This can expedite how fast you're building your bunker bases, but the goal here is that you should still be working with your team to deliver materials to this to the construction equipment and moving these things around with cranes and flatbeds and so forth. We're hoping that the end product here will be that when you're trying to build a bunker or a facility and you're using these, that it looks and feels like a real construction site. And it's not just three guys walking from blueprint to blueprint holding down left click.
And there's also going to be quite a bit of strategy when it comes to just placing these and positioning them as well, because it's not automatically mobile. You have to move it and package it and move it. So it's not like you said, it's changing sort of the actions as opposed to the time. It's just a little bit different.
Yeah, actually, I want to mention that. And yes, it can dig. I saw somebody mention that in chat. The strategy here is that when you'll notice from this image that the crane arm extends only a certain distance. It will build the fastest if you put it at the end on the far end, the close end, because the arm will animate quickly to pick up the gravel and then drop it directly in front. If you put something behind the construction equipment, it will take longer because it has to swivel around to face the other way, but it has a further range. So you'll be able to reach further because the arm is further. So it's a kind of cool little mini game that you have for optimization there.
That's really cool. Okay, next video we are ready for. Right.
Okay. Bunker changes. Power system unification. This is something we have been aching to do for so long. Tell us how long we've been waiting to do this, Mark.
Oh, when did we add the engine rooms or facilities rather? How long since we added facilities, right?
Okay, so power system. We no longer have those silly those pipe upgrades that pipe around under the facilities. In fact, we've kind of changed how power works entirely inside the bunker system. Engine rooms now act like a kind of internal battery to the bunker. So if you could think about the bunker like a single structure, like a facility, right? Like you build a single facility structure, consider it all like one big structure. The facilities need power, the bunker needs power too. So you can add this engine room and you can pipe power directly to it. You can do it by just adding diesel to it, or you can pipe power it by running the power line. You no longer need to do the pipes modification thing where you just go around the thing, but you also can't power multiple bunkers from one bunker. But the caveat there is this engine room doesn't provide a vulnerability for a bunker. So yes, you will need an engine room in every bunker where it needs power, but this doesn't have a structural integrity hit anymore. This is just another room. Similar to the ammo room, it shouldn't make your bunker more vulnerable. You just need one if your bunker needs power.
All right, let's move on to bunker placement.
Okay, so you can build. So going back to what Mark was saying at the beginning of the stream, we tried to put these changes in several patches ago, but the builders were telling us that this wasn't a good idea for a multitude of reasons, and we took that feedback and we bringing it in to bring these things back to with all of these other features to try to make this more of a unified experience. So you can build bunkers beside each other. There is a penalty for it, which I'll get into later. The artillery garrison retaliation now scales proportionally, which we think is just a good way for a good balancing change. The big thing to notice here, which you guys might not might not be immediately obvious, is the build footprints. You'll notice how tightly we've packed that trench to the front line. And the reason why we really felt this was necessary was because we know that you guys have been using a lot of bugs and different tricks that required knowledge, deep tomes of knowledge to be able to make the bunker work using all these tricks. So we wanted to just make these bunkers work in all of those situations. We just wanted you to be able to build the design you wanted without struggling with these weird magical rules. Every new player should be able to see a bunker that somebody else has built and then be able to replicate that design without the tricks. So we fixed as many of these bugs as we could find, and then we relaxed a lot of these rules so that you could build it. And the next slide, I think, explains everything in more detail. So yeah, you can see here, this is a bunker that includes a lot of the content that we just talked about. The big one that I think, again, you should look at is the improved build footprints. Look how tightly these trenches snake through here. Look how tightly it is in the back row there too. Like you can get these things so close together that hopefully you won't need those old tricks to get this to work. I think that's it. We can move on.
Okay.
All right, so we changed the bunker tree progression. I think we mentioned this earlier. You can now build concrete bunkers without tech. Not the AI defenses, but specifically like if you build just a basic empty fort, you can upgrade it all the way to concrete without tech. What does require tech now is upgrading it to putting in the AI defenses for it. So you could build a completely PvP oriented bunker using with the tripod mounts, with the interior firing ports, and you don't need any bunker tech for that. You can just build one. So this might help if you're trying to like push into an enemy in an enemy friendly or enemy starter regions, but you don't have the bunker up yet or the bunker tech up yet. You can still build bunkers that players can man and fight in. So we unified the structural integrity. This was a problem. We noticed that players would build a different design for tier 1 versus tier 3. If their intention was to build a tier 3 base, then it would look wildly different than if they were on the front line trying to build something that would work in the immediate. It never made sense to just upgrade the existing tier 1 bunkers from a fight to a concrete bunker because you wanted to make because the structural integrity kept changing. So they're all the same now. So a bunker that makes sense at tier 3 should make sense at tier 1 so that you can, I think that.
So it sounds like a lot of these changes in the aggregate is designed to just reduce the amount of special knowledge and quirks. So if you want to just get started in building, it's still a daunting task, but at least you won't need to know as many of these strange edge cases if you want to build what is considered the best thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Okay.
And then there's a structural integrity bonus, which we need the next slide for.
Yep.
So the way this works is I mentioned that it impacts structural integrity. So what we're trying to do here is give you guys a reason to build thoughtful designs. So you can put 2 AI defenses beside each other, but it counts against your bonus. So you'll want to spread them out by having blank tiles between, but you can put them side by side if you want, or if the situation calls for it. The big asterisk here is that we want you guys to feel like you have creative freedom. The bonus is sizable, but it's not so big that you feel like you have to adhere to these rules. If you want to break one or two of these rules, you should be able to do that without like a tremendous detriment. So that's the balance we're going for. But again, we're looking for you guys' feedback once you get in there and actually get a chance to test it. All right, so how bunker breaching works. You can break individual tiles. The way it happens is the structure, in part, the breach. Let me start over. You can break individual tiles, but in order to break it, first the structure has to drop below a certain health threshold. The health threshold is determined in part by the structural integrity. So the lower your structural integrity, the more easy it is to breach, but you still have to breach this threshold. So this will hopefully make the bunkers are still as resilient as they have been before, but there's a point where it starts to break down. So if they're taking a lot of damage, or there's a sudden burst of attack, or a sudden attack, you might be able to break one or two of these pieces off, and then gain access to the bunker. And the lower the health of the bunker, the more likely a breach occurs. So what I'm hoping to see from this is that, like, for example, if you attack a bunker with a bunch of like 250 millimeter, then you'll be blowing up the front part of the bunker more and more and more as you push through, to the point where you may not even finish it off. You may remove all of the necessary parts, like the AI defenses, and then just leave the rest because it's inert. There are special weapons like the Havoc Charge, which will circumvent the breach health. So this one is the 2-part satchel charge that you can place down. You need 2 players to do it. If you blow that up, it could breach the bunker without needing to reach that threshold. And there's a few other weapons that can do this.
Okay, and here we just have a screenshot illustrating what a bunker looks like before and after it's breached. And let's talk about visualizing thresholds.
Yep. And I told you at the start we were going to keep hitting this nail on the head over and over and over again. The goal of this update was to put builder tools into the hands of all players, not inside the hands of just a select few. So to do this, we had to give you guys the information you needed without needing to go to some third-party website to figure out the internal statistics of your bunker build. So what we've done here is we've added information pertaining to what changes you're going to see in your bunker. You can see in the tooltip here that it predicts that the health will drop by a little bit and the breachable health will go up. So you can tell you can more easily decide on the fly whether you want to add that next piece or whether you want to add this rifle garrison. You don't need to do any research for that. So I want to pull all of this together. Like Mark said, there's a lot of this stuff that comes together. It's going to take a lot of thoughtful feedback to help us get to the balance here, because a lot of this stuff ties together. Remember, I was talking about the artillery shelter and how it impacts structural integrity. So the idea there was you can make a bunker more resistant to artillery. Doing that might make it more vulnerable to a direct assault. You might want to build bunkers that are catered towards different situations. Having a bunker that's on the front line resistant to direct attack, but a bunker that's protecting your fob resistant to artillery might be what you want to do. We're waiting to see what you guys think will be the meta, but we're hoping it'll be hard to find. We're hoping that there will be a lot of different ideas that could work.
All right, I think we are ready for the last part here with the next video. Is that all you have to say, Max, about bunker breaching?
Yeah, that's it. We're done.
Okay. right. So we'll start with the uniform. So naval uniforms finally we got into Foxhole. I think we had talked about and planned for this since the naval update, but that was such a giant update we couldn't get them through. And since then, we've been trying to get them done, and finally it landed in this kind of a random update for them to land in. But they're finally in there, and what they will do is they will help you walk through water more effectively, and they will allow you to carry buckets of water more effectively. And here you can see the colonial version of it. Both factions have their own versions, and don't worry, you don't need to buy seasons pass or pay for microtransactions for these, although it's not a bad idea. I kid. So they will, yeah, you'll just have them available in the next update. There's another screenshot of the colonial version. And let's talk about bunker busters, Max.
Cool. So some weapons, this is not like the Havoc charge. It won't, oh wait. This one.
This is
Oh,
the
man.
rocket. This is the rocket, and then
Yeah. I'm not going to get into specifics because I can't quite remember, but this one helps you breach bunkers. So we're trying
yes.
to give you guys some more tools to breach bunkers. Now that we've got that mechanic in, we needed to give you guys some tools to do that. So this is a new ammo type that you saw in that video. It not like a rocket that shoots into the sky and then comes down. This is a rocket that arcs, similar to the arcing RPG rocket.
So it's more
bigger.
of, it's like more of a direct fire. It's more of a direct fire weapon where you can actually see where you're shooting.
Yeah, but the range is still pretty good. It can shoot over a
Yeah.
tank line, for example. Might be interesting to see something like that. We'll see. And of course, we need a special 250 millimeter for busting rockets. This goes into the large field mortar. So this one does have, again, not getting into specifics. This one also helps you breach bunkers. This one goes into that large field mortar. What's unique about that one is it arcs higher. So the old or the existing field mortar has sort of like a shallow arc when it shoots. This one arcs pretty high, can go over some obstacles, and has decent range. And there's the mortar.
Yeah. Got the other visuals for this. And then the scout tank.
So this is a sort of a rework of a previous tank. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. You guys will recall this one used to be the old HE rocket Warden variant. We moved that to the armored car. This one's now the big boy rockets.
Another visual, and then we got the armored car here.
Yeah, so this one takes over the role of what that scout tank used to do. So this one's just it has more HE rockets. I think it fires 10. And again, it has that increased range, so hopefully we'll see these get used.
So this is to replace the role of the scout tank.
Yep.
Right. Cool. And then I think this is the last. We got one more section here. Let me just pull this out with the video. There you go.
Cool. You want to talk about this first, Mark?
I could talk about what I think is cool about it first. Yeah, it's so I think I'll talk more about like the history of why of us wanting to do this, and then maybe Max, you can get more into the gameplay side. But when we first designed the trench and bunker system, we always wanted to implement this underground bunker that went below ground further than um, all the other bunkers. So there was always this. There was a diagram that we pulled from World War II. I believe it was from the Maginot Line, where it was at the side of a mountain. It showed like a cutaway of all the rooms that extended all the way into the ground, and we always wanted to have some version of that, but we didn't have the tech at the time, and it was also it was also uh, there was always other things that were higher priority. But now that we're revisiting the large structures, we want to finally put this in, and that's sort of what the history of us wanting to do this concept. And then Max, now you can talk about how it actually impacts the game.
Yeah, so you guys will recall way back when we did the town update that we had a problem where players would never enter a town to have a fight. The fight would always happen at the edge of town because that's where you could build defenses. And as soon as you broke through those lines of defenses, the town would just fall. And what we did to help pull the fight into the city was add safe houses. And that is, again, tying in with all of the bunker breaching mechanics that we've added here. We didn't just want to give you guys an access point to the bunkers. We wanted to give you a reason to go inside. And we thought, what better way to do this than with a tried and tested method, which is the underground fortress or a player-built safe house. To blow this up, you'll have to walk inside, go down the stairs, and hit the explosions in the inside of the bunker. And you can you can add rooms to all of those side pieces. So just like the storm cannon, you can add like ammo rooms and medical rooms to the first floor. So you can express your creativity that way. And then you can breach it. When you attack this, you could blow up all the pieces around it, but it won't go down until you walk inside, pulling players in, making it so that there's not just artillery that will clear out a base. You have to send your guys in and go blow it up.
All right, and here's just some concept art to show the development process. The basement floor at the bottom left was changed eventually to be what was on the right. But you can see the different things that we tried. And yeah, like Max mentioned, the top floor can be customized in the video. It showed a blank, but that's to show you you can place different types of rooms there. So yeah, that's it. That's it for this update. Then, as usual, we're going to be doing a Q&A on Reddit shortly after the stream, and then we'll let you guys know about when the dev branch is going to hit, which is hopefully going to be soon. That is it for now, Matt. So I think we can sign off after. That was a bit of a touch and go situation there at the beginning.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it was totally fine afterwards. I don't know. Sometimes things just happen, and you got to roll with the punches. If we did miss anything, we probably will be throwing some slides up because it caused some other technical issues where some text was cut off. We apologize for that. Hopefully it doesn't happen next time. So we'll make sure that you guys can see some of that information that got cut off as well. Thanks everybody, and as always, stay foxy.